So for one reason or another, I didn't have the highest anticipation for this movie. I mean, I was looking forward to it, I thought it was going to be fun, but in the end I was just kind of like, yeah, whatever. But the closer and closer that it came, I was just kind of like, yeah, I kind of really want to see this now, actually. And so this is day one, and I saw it, and I'm Jack Fitzpatrick, and this is my review of Rogue One. So if you didn't know, this movie is essentially about this group of characters trying to get this vital piece of information about the Death Star. Yes, the Death Star is back because this movie is set before the original trilogy, after the prequels, and way before episode 7. And I know that this could be confusing among casual fans, and I'm definitely interested to know how many people thought that this was episode 8. So speaking of this story, one inherent flaw that comes with this, if you know about it, is that you kind of know where it's going. You know where it's going to end up, but that's not exactly the point. You know, the point is the story, the point is the journey, how they get there. And this movie does the job of filling in the gaps and explaining some of the backstory. But here's where I'll start having to get into my criticism. The first third or so of this movie felt a bit clunky. It was very exposition heavy, and they kept jumping from planet to planet, and it started to get hard to keep track of who was where and what was going on. And I imagine to casual fans, this could get really confusing. As somebody who never really loved this franchise until The Force Awakens, I myself was wondering, who's this? What's that? But once that second third kicks in, it starts to get back on track, and I really got into it. Despite the fact that I really did like this movie though, it did feel quite disposable. Much more so than episode 7 did. And I think that this was mostly due to the fact that there wasn't enough time for the characters to truly develop enough. I felt like I didn't really know the characters all that well, and I didn't really care about them as much as the movie seemed to want me to. And they kinda lacked personality. Some of the weaker characters for me include this blind guy who, look, is really cool. He can, you know, beat up a bunch of guys and everything. But in the end, he has no personality at all. There's also a few other team members whose names I don't remember or anything, and they were just kind of there. Probably the weakest character for me though was the character that Forrest Whitaker played. I did not care about him. That doesn't mean that all of the characters were weak though. The protagonist, played by Felicity Jones, was alright, she was cool. The villain was respectable enough, and he kind of reminded me of Kylo Ren because he was kind of flawed, although he was nowhere near as strong a character as Kylo Ren. But by far the best character in the whole movie is this robot called K2SO, or K2SO, or something. And he'll probably be the fan favorite. He was a bit of a smartass, he was really funny, and he was kind of cute in a weird way. In the end though, all of the characters were okay. There were no Rey or Finns in this movie. Nobody that became immediately iconic like they did. Speaking of the characters though, I was kind of surprised by the quality of acting in this movie. Despite the fact that all of the characters didn't have that much personality, I'd still say that all of the actors do their jobs fairly well. This acting, along with the tone overall, really made this movie feel much more realistic and grounded, considering the type of movie that it is. It felt a little more serious, it felt a little more dangerous for the characters. That being said though, this meant that it majorly lacked that kind of fun and innocence that a lot of the Star Wars movies have. This isn't exactly a flaw though, I think that this was more intentional. This is a slightly more mature film and isn't just for fun explosions. That being said, there was plenty of that, and this movie really did feel very Star Wars. It had the wiping transitions, it had that music in it that was a little bit different, but it sounded like Star Wars. And with that, I'd say that Rogue One definitely successfully felt like it was part of the universe, but felt like it was its own separate thing. You know, it wasn't quite the main event. It focused on one standalone story, and the whole thing overall wasn't global. Though they did travel the universe and go to different planets and stuff, Rogue One still feels much more grounded than all of the other Star Wars movies. That being said though, for such a small scale, grounded kind of movie, Rogue One still managed to feel very cinematic. As you'd expect in a movie like this, one thing that you can't criticize about it are the special effects and the visuals. There were plenty of just beautiful shots of aircraft warfare and blasters and all of that Star Wars kind of stuff that you'd expect. The character designs were great, and the CG is just something that you cannot say anything bad about. It's basically perfect with only a few exceptions here and there. Speaking of how cinematic this movie felt, I just have to talk about Darth Vader for a moment. Yes, he's in this movie. And I'm not going to spoil anything at all, but I will say that out of the few scenes that he is in, there is one that just blew my mind. This scene is probably worth the price of the ticket alone. In the end though, Rogue One was really fun. It was a nice addition to the Star Wars universe, but it was much more serious and it was a bit more dark and everything. You felt like the characters were in a bit more danger than usual, but to counter that, you didn't quite care as much as usual either. In the end though, this definitely felt like a Star Wars movie, and you should definitely go see it if you're a fan, or you know, if you just want to see a cool movie. I would rate Star Wars Rogue One an 8.5 out of 10. So let me know what you thought about the movie if you've seen it, let me know what you thought about this review, and like, comment, share, subscribe, all that stuff, and yeah. Pew pew!